Be humble, eh? Be humble. Famous last words of Erling Haaland in the previous game between Arsenal and Man City at the Etihad. Gabriel said he'll remember it and he'll take that. He'll see them at the Emirates. And lo and behold, Arsenal pulled out a 5-star performance, getting 5 goals against a Man City team that are currently in freefall. Is it all without Rodri, or are there bigger problems at hand? Or could it just be that this may just be not their season, and the title is there for either Liverpool or Arsenal to grab? This is One Kick from Glory. It's just me and Matthew here today.
Yep.
I'm going to talk about that and a lot of other things going on in the Premier League this season. It's been an exciting season, exciting title race, lots of new things happening. I guess the first thing I want to start off with, Matthew, is your reflection on that match between Arsenal and Man City. Big game at the top of the table, lot to say. You know, the current champions against the runners-up for the last 2 seasons in a row. How do you think Arsenal fared in that match against Man City?
That's what you call, I want to do a wrestling reference right now. There's a guy called Booker T who was like 5 time. You did a Booker T last night. He's spinnerooning over them big time. That's what you call, irregardless what happens at the end of the season for you guys, you're going to take solace, and that was like, this is a grudge. You've gone from because over the years you've been battered by these guys. How many times? Lately, the gap's been shrinking just that little bit. We all saw from last year, you beat them there at home, you drew this year, whatever, you get it's bridging. But this year, it was an air of disrespect, especially from some of their players, man. From the end of that game, at the Etihad, they got their last minute equaliser and they were squaring up. I was like, this is just like a lack of respect. And you're like, you know what, just for this, even if it's just for this game, we're going to punk these fools. We're going to punk these guys. This is going to be a fight. And we're going to go out there and we're going to just we're going to go mad. We're going to go mad. And from the second minute, the tone of the game was set. And sometimes that's just how it goes. It's just going to be one-way traffic constantly. They've been here before. This is not the first time this has happened. Back when Liverpool, I think, and this is when they were on the ascendancy. Liverpool, they went to Anfield. And they just completely lost their heads. They might not have been concentrating. They might have been back in Manchester or something. But Liverpool took them to the cleaners. And I did say to another colleague of mine who's an Arsenal fan, I said, there's something to be had from this game because they're not the super city that we know and used to. I was going to say know and love, but we don't
love them.
We don't.
No.
We love this.
Yeah.
This is great. This is fun. But and long may it continue, because I was afraid after the game that we played in, which really, really frustrated me because there was something there for us. I was scared that all we need was a run and they go off on them. But this has kind of put it back into perspective that there's something else going on at this club. But, you sometimes you got to put up and you got to fight for it. And, all these players, your man last week from that silly sending off,
Miles Lewis-Skelly
made an impression, and they're doing the celebration back. Sometimes that's what football is. Let's just throw out the niceness. Let's punk these guys, man. Let's put them in a thing. Put them in their place, and just make fun of it. I mean, that 5-1 is going to be, like I said, irregardless of what happens for the rest of the season, you're going to look at that as a big statement that when you go next year, whether it's to the Etihad or whatever, there's no need to fear them. No one's really scared of them anymore. I wasn't scared of them last week. A lot of teams are going there like, you know what? Let's take them. While their back is turned and they've got like a weak underbelly or something, let's just go ahead and take it. And bear in mind, this is about your star boy.
Yeah.
This is about your star boy, which a lot of things, and as of speaking right now, you haven't got a striker in the transfer window, but the goals came. The goals were coming, and then, put him under the cosh, man. So we love to see it, man. We love to see it. This was a fight. This was much more than, we got trophy in mind. There's like, you could have been in 18th and it still would have had the same effect. It's like, you know what? Even if we're going down, we got you. So take solace in this season. You gave him a whooping.
And I think what's important in the context of this match is that when you think about the overall season, you think about what this result would mean. And also looking back to the previous game, like you said, with the Miles Lewis-Skelly sending off, if that had been allowed to stand, he doesn't get his first Premier League goal. We don't get this extra layer of narrative added onto the match. I mean, Haaland said at the end of the game, or during the game in this season at the Etihad, earlier in the season, he was like to him, "Oh, Mark, who are you? Who the heck is this guy?" Well, I guess he knows now. And I kind of like that. And they did ask Pep at the full-time whistle what he thought about the celebration. He kind of gave a non-answer, and it was almost like, "Oh, what celebration? Oh, really? Okay." I like that. As you said, I like that the niceties of this fixture is going away. Like, it's bubbling up. It's starting to feel a little bit like the edge of a Arsenal, Man United of old, Liverpool, Man United of like I guess you say the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, that kind of needle where you've got two teams that are going at it, you know, or even you can think way back to Man United, Newcastle, when they had those famous run-ins, and you had Keegan and Ferguson's those famous comments on the radio from Kevin Keegan, which he lived to regret. But you know that you need that needle in football because it can't always be about the niceties. You have that with Tottenham. I mean, Tottenham aren't really like a challenger in that sense, but you have that with them. That needle when you go to play them, there's no love lost there. There's no niceties, and you need that. And I think in the context of this bigger season, I think it's good to see that we look at how the game played out. Arsenal went 1-0 up. I'm exploiting a weakness from Man City that we haven't really seen a lot over the years is their poor ability to pass out from the back.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of normally it's Ederson's the risky one and you kind of catch him out every now and again. But the amount of times the ball was turned over from the back, like just poor passes. I mean, Foden gives the ball away, which leads to one of the goals, and no one really talks about it. Partey's equaliser, which he goal made it 2-1. But even the fact that, we score 1-0, pressing them, win the ball back, quick pass from Declan Rice, into Havertz, round the corner to Ødegaard to tap it into an empty net. Wonderful goal. And then you fast forward a little bit, and then they equalise. Great goal from Haaland. Can't argue with that. But then straight away, we go up the other end. Foden tries to play a pass around the referee to his teammate, gets pitched off by Partey. The crowd says shoot. He has a look and thinks, why not? And John Stones must have been watching the Grammys a lot because I don't know what he was thinking with that twist to block it. But he turned his back on the ball, which you never do in football, and it bounced off his arse and went in the back of the net. 2-1, and then we just kept going. But I think also for the game, for me, what was really important is that we learned a valuable lesson in that because we went 1-0 up and we kind of took our foot off the gas and settled into our resting state of you have the ball, try break us down. And that didn't work out for us. The minute they scored, they didn't have another shot in the game.
That's it.
And what we did really well is we just kept attacking them with intensity, with speed, with directness, with purpose, something which we haven't always done this season. Something which we did a lot in the 2022-23 season, which people really liked, the 21-22 season. So I think I like the fact that we kind of reverted back to the old Arsenal, which a lot of fans want, as opposed to last season Arsenal, which was a bit more kind of slow, methodical, boring in some regards. But I think that was an important way to kind of bounce back from that. And as you said, Lewis Skelly gets his goal. I think him and Ranieri running off the bench, Skelly started at left back, but just getting those goals to kind of crown a performance. I mean, how important do you think it is for those two young players at Arsenal, especially when there's been a lot of conversation around the manager and his usage of youth players? There's been a lot of conversation about how Arsenal are going to deal without Saka being there. There's been a lot of conversation about youth products in general and how their pathway to the first team exists or doesn't exist. How important do you think it was for those two to get goals in a match like this?
Well, clearly the talent foundry is working. If Saka is that much of an important player to you, and the fact that the injury for some of the parts since he's been injured has been a frustrating time for you guys because he's a big part to your team, and even after, regardless of what this game was, you do still see how important that he is. But it doesn't mean that and this goes for all clubs, whether you're Arsenal, whether you're Liverpool, whether you're Chelsea, or even if you're someone like a Crystal Palace. The talent foundry is there to be used, and it's like there's a responsibility now. I've said before, there is a responsibility to clubs now to give them more of a chance. It's not like back then, where if you didn't make the mark, out you're gone. I mean, their lives are left a chance. Whereas now, there's much more looking after. It's a more user-friendly system in a way that you see a lot of substitute times, and a lot of like games where you may not need to have your big stars. They are featuring just that little bit more, because football's looking to be more self-sustaining at this rate, which means that you are forced to use more of your academy products, which makes it almost, I'm not putting it out there as a burden. If anything, it's a good thing because it's a chance for you to really show what kind of foundry your club actually is. And loads of clubs, not just in England, around the world are good for doing it. Clubs like Porto are good. No, sorry, Porto. Sporting Lisbon are very good for doing that. Look at Barcelona. At one point with Barcelona's second string of players, granted it didn't work when they all left the club, but the promise was there. Chelsea, how many players look around in the Premier League started off at Chelsea and where they are now? Declan Rice for one, he started off with us. Kylian Mbappe nearly came from us. Mason Mount, Tomori, Abraham all came from us. Liverpool with the likes of Curtis Jones. Man City, Philip Foden was from there, wasn't he? Foden was from Man City?
Foden's from their academy, yeah.
Yeah, from their academy. Kobe Mainoo from likes of Manchester United. I could go on. I really, really could go on because they didn't start. It wasn't an overnight thing. Saka didn't start overnight. Look at someone like Trent. He weren't overnight. He's probably if this is his last season, he's heading off to Real Madrid.
And also on the Saka point, I think it's important to know as well that when you look at the youth team records and you look at the coaches, he wasn't really the one that they were all praising the most. Like when he was coming up, it was more like he was good, but there were other players that were more highly regarded. But then he was just persistently year on year, he's still there getting better and better and better. And then when he got his opportunity, he took it. You know, he played left wing back for us, left back. He's played left central midfield as an attacking 8. He's played right wing and obviously left wing. And now you see he's dominating in his position. But it just shows that player development is so varied. But also when you have a club that has a platform of bedding in young players and giving them a chance, which is a good thing Chelsea do have, even though they don't always make it into the first team fold, they get a career somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, you're very good at churning out players and pushing them out into different teams. And I think that's something which I know Arsenal have been really doing a lot of work in, improving the number of players that are coming through. And one of the things that they've always said as an academy is that even if you don't make it here, you're going to have a career in football.
Exactly, yeah. That's sometimes the good. That is, we can't promise it because, the want for the clubs for, let's say the club is going somewhere and just if you can't fit in the mold, but you might fit in somewhere else, there will be something there for you. That's what I mean by being more user friendly. It's not a case of you're not making it here, you're not making it anywhere else. There is no way we're sending you to another club, out the window, gone, bye. Whereas with these two guys you got here, there's a chance for them to maybe, but we're talking about them now, that's because they've been used so much. And if only just burst onto the scene, it'll be unfair to, compare him to Saka, who had years of building up. It took him about 3 or 4 years to really truly establish himself. It's barely been like three quarters of a season. They're going to need time, but it's good to see that they are at least given that chance. You just got to hope that one of these guys, for all we know, the reason why the whole gone for a striker is that you might have someone in the rings that you're already going to trust. You might have someone. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of your club, but I'm saying is that maybe that's what the plan is. I keep on talking with some other people about this whole thing, the whole striker market. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's mad. I mean, John Duran's gone to Saudi for what, 70 million. We don't know that much about him, but that just proves my point. He's young. He's 21?
2021, yeah.
Yeah, and he's gone to Saudi for his reason, whatever. But it's not so much he's going to Saudi; it's how much he's gone for.
And also think about for him, he can come back in. I imagine he'll be back in Europe within 3 seasons.
Yeah, and he'd be a proper thing product. Same with how much did Tony go for?
Ivan was about, I think, 35 to 40. It wasn't a lot.
No,
Between 35 to 45 he went.
But the striker market for any club is ridiculous. Even if you're paying for someone who's 24, if you're paying for someone who's 34, you're going to be paying bank because that's just. The striker market is just so much of a luxury right now. Why? Because they're all putting in the goals. Harry Kane puts in the goals. Salah puts in the goals. Even though he's not having best season, Haaland's putting in the goals. Osimhen, yeah, hell, even someone like big Chris Wood.
Yeah, he's on a great run. Great run.
He's on a great one. Isak as well. These are workhorse strikers.
And also, I think when you list the names, like there are the standout names that you can think of across most of the clubs in the leagues. But then it's just the spread. I don't think there's as much spread of. You've got your clear, obvious players. Your Ishaks, Kane. I don't think many people are going to try and buy him, but Kane, your Haaland's like that level. And then you think of the bracket below, and there's not many strikers that you could think of. I mean, there's names that always come up when you think about Arsenal strikers, like Vlahovic. But if Juventus aren't keen on him, it's kind of like, is he really? There's a young guy called Benjamin Sesko, but he's still developing at RB Leipzig. He would have been a gamble, I guess, because he's got a great ball striking ability, but it's going to take him a bit of time to adapt. There's been links to Ollie Watkins in the league, and he's become a reliable goal scorer. But then it's like the money is going to cost to get him out of Aston Villa is going to be a lot.
That's what it is. And he ain't going nowhere now.
He ain't going nowhere. And then obviously, there's Evan Ferguson has recently moved to West Ham on loan for the rest of the season. That's a great move for him to kind of kickstart his career after a few injuries. You've got players like João Pedro at Brighton as well. So there's players that are interesting. But then when you think about what the big teams need to kind of take them from, like Arsenal in particular, take them from challenging to can we close this 6-point gap on Liverpool? The pool of players to sign shrinks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that there's not talented younger players that you could probably gamble on. Like John Duran would have been a great gamble signing. Obviously not for the amount he's left for, but he would have been an interesting one to try and go for. There's other players you could look at and think, maybe. But I think the club needs to do something tonight.
Whether it's someone outside or you've got some hot prospect you're relying on that he's to come in next few games and he's going to do something mad, I don't know what it is. I always put forward the name Cunha, But I know he's a very unpredictable hothead. I know that. John Duran would have been another one where he's not starting that often, but he's someone that can do really well leading the line. That's if you were going to stick with the domestic market, where at least then the money, you wouldn't be spending as much money on like a striker. But obviously with Vlahovic, try and go for him again. I mean, like I said, the options. The funny thing is that the options are quite limited unless you're willing to break the bank for someone like an Isak. If you're going to risk it on,
but Newcastle are not going to sell him.
Newcastle are not,
and I wouldn't expect them to, and I wouldn't ask that of them. I think that would be very unfair considering where they're trying to get to this season and the possibility of them making it back into Europe. Obviously, we've got the second leg of the Carabao Cup this week as well. So they would want to keep him to fire them into a final for their first trophy in a long time. I think
exactly that.
They're on the up, but that's a player that you'd think Arsenal really want. I just don't know if he's even going to be gettable in the summer.
No, it kind of depends on where he's going to be. Where I said to him, you talk about where he's like, what does the player want from from the club that they're at? Are they in it for the glory and the trophies, or do they want to be the man at their club? Because it was a similar thing for when you wanted to strike, when you were nearly signed Vardy, and he's still here nearly 8 years later.
Yep,
he's won the Premier League, he won the FA Cup,
won the Championship,
again twice. Relegated, promoted, stay with him. He's a certified Leicester legend. Is that what Isak wants? I don't know.
I think the Newcastle project looks very good. Obviously, for Isak, the chance to play Champions League football regularly, that will be a big pull. So if Newcastle don't make Europe but for next season, that might be a big negotiation tactic. He hasn't signed a new contract yet. He's got a couple of years of that to run, so that could also be another factor as well. He might just be biding his time to see what they do. But either way, he's in a good position because if he stays where he is, he's got a chance to keep chipping away and get closer to Shearer's record. If he moves, he's got a chance to take the number 14 shirt and emulate it at Arsenal. He could also go anywhere. He could go Man United and try and take Rooney's record. He could go to, I don't know whether you'd want to go to Chelsea, but he could go there and look at Drogba's record. There's lots of little clubs that he could pick and say, okay, if I'm going to leave Newcastle, which project is the best project for me to keep elevating my game? And Arsenal is the most attractive one, I would say, for us. But at the same time, there's options. He's not like he's struggling to find a club to go to, which is good for him.
He'd walk into most clubs in the Premier League anyway.
Yeah. So I think that's a big thing. So for me, I think Arsenal need to do something this window. If we don't, like you said, there better be someone that we've got in the academy that can come through. I don't know. There's a couple of the young strikers. I don't think they're ready for the first team football. There's one, Nathan Baloyi-Oyedeji, who played the other day in Champions League. He's okay, but he's 22. He hasn't had much first team experience till this season, which by 22 you should have already had some exposure.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's gonna be the breakout surprise package for the rest of the season. Obviously, we know Havertz has his little runs, which he's done the last few seasons, so he could go on a run.
He got a goal yesterday.
Got a goal to start off, so he could go on a run.
Yeah, we never know.
From now to the end of the season. But I also don't think we should be relying on just him. No. Jesus is out for the year. Saka's going to be back near the back end of the season, and it might take him a while to get up to speed. We shouldn't just be depending on the youngsters and players like Trossard and Martinelli who have been burning hot and cold this season to bail us through. We need someone extra just to give the squad a lift. Yes. Give the fans a lift, and just to put a little bit of pressure on people. Because I like the way Trossard and Martinelli have been playing recently. They've stepped up on how they're playing. But then a part of you is like, are they playing better because the window is still open?
And the advertising.
And also, not even that. And there's a possibility of someone coming in to take their shirt. Exactly. Is that why they're stepping up? And then when the window closes, are we going to see like a slight reversion to the mean?
They can go back and chill.
So I don't know. I'm happy for what they're doing. I'm not saying that's what they are doing performance-wise, but I don't want to depend on two players that have been a bit hot and cold at times, and when we need a lot more from them. So that's going to be a big thing, and we'll see what Arsenal do. But yeah, I'm happy with the result. I don't like how people have been complaining about how we celebrated it and how the DJ at the Emirates played Be Humble on full time. He played two songs, and then he played Havertz's song straight after that. I mean, he did say, the DJ, he's on Twitter, he did say that, or X, he did say that, I'm saving that song for this game, and if we beat them, I'm dropping it at full time, and he did. So it's fair play to him. Shout out, Peter.
Football sense of humour, man.
It is, but and also
football sense of humour.
That's the thing. I don't get why people like Gary Neville are chiming in, saying we're overdoing with the celebration and everything, and talking about how it's justified his humble comments. Like, when should fans celebrate a win? And how should fans celebrate a win? And when should players celebrate a win?
We should be allowed. You're losing your sense. I don't know who these people are that get bothered so damn much. If you're going to get this bothered by a football match, You don't deserve to be a football fan.
They need to go out and touch grass.
I'm sorry, man. You need to do something. You need to do something, man. Football, is for the most parts, that banter can get for real, and you've got to be able to dish it. You've got to be able to take it, especially someone like Gary Neville. Especially someone like Gary Neville, all those years putting up with all that nonsense, all that celebrating. I remember some of them celebrations, man.
me too.
I remember you getting charged for some of those celebrations, man. I'm not saying you can't do it, but let it's a people's game, man. It's a people's game, and we're losing it because a few people who don't have the best interests of the sport, we're letting them dictate. We're talking about your casual fans, your touristy fans who like wearing the garms but don't know what the garms and the badge means to have that history and that rivalry, man. You know, it's like you want the people who come in. I want to try and make football something different from what it is. It's like I said this before, I want my people, I want the people that I want for this. But all you man who's been here from the good times, the dark times, the real dark times, to fighting off with the whole, what is it, the Super League thing?
Super League
the
debacle,
Super League
yeah.
thing, the Super League debacle, fighting that off. You know, all right, man, you might get the occasional little scuffle of this, bit of disagreement, yeah, but, you know, well, I'm not saying that football's necessarily built on it, but it's you don't want to crush the spirit of it and what it means to the places where it's come from. Like, you know, your small clubs to your big clubs. 'Cause remember, someone like Man United is big, built on a housing area. Same thing with Liverpool.
Yep.
Arsenal, same thing. Chelsea, same thing. We're right by a street. We're not often just like some cordon off area like some other places. Hell, even the toilet bowl.
Yeah, right in the middle of the high street.
Right in the middle of the high street. Where I work, I pass by, it's right there. You can take the people out of the stadium, but you can't take the stadium out of the people.
So true.
So leave it alone. Leave it alone. Let the people have their banter, man.
Exactly.
Relax.
Speaking of banter, another defeat for Man United.
Oof. Ooh.
I feel for them.
I feel for Amorim.
I feel for them. It's capped at 35%, but I do feel for them. And the reason why is I think they have really struggled to adapt to the demands of modern football. Yeah. As weird as that sounds to say. I think the fan base have an impression of their club which the players can't live up to. True. The players turn it on when they want. Yeah. They're not getting consistent performances out of them, which is a big, big problem. They've hired a manager who has a bold plan of how he wants to play and what he wants to do. And yet, he's just not getting the tune out of the players for many different reasons. Obviously, they've moved on Rashford now on loan for the end of the season to Villa, which we'll talk about in a bit. But it just feels like if the ownership are not going to give him the funds to really get the players they need to get to move the needle on, why on earth did you bring him in at this time? Like, I still honestly don't understand, when you look at the scale of things for Man United, how they ended last season, the fact that there was debates within the Ineos group over whether Erik ten Hag should stay or should go. They kept him on for 2-3 months, yep, and then sacked him, brought in Amorim, and they've only made one new signing so far, which is Dorgu. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And they got the youngster from Arsenal, Aiden Heaven. So that's 2 players they brought in so far under him. I think they might be bringing in a third as well. But I just feel like, but you know the type of manager he is, you know what type of football he wants to play. Are they going to be okay to struggle through to the end of the season and then just rip it up in the summer?
Man, they are looking over their shoulders like every now and then they're peeking over. I mean, they're far enough. There's a barrier enough from them, from that line, that dreaded line for where they want to be. But they're closer to it than what they'd like. They're closer to that than what they are to the top. And that's, that is really, really saying something. Like this, they're lucky they're not turning it. And the thing is, though, big clubs of late have been close to that line recently, a lot closer. Chelsea were there not long ago. You thought you were there at one point, and now it seems like it's there. And hell, Spurs are there right now, and yep, continuing consistently getting. Obviously, they won yesterday, but they're consistently reaching that point where it's like these owners need to realise that You're not buying 2018 Man United. You're not even buying 2013 Manchester United. You're buying a Manchester United that has been scamming cup wins for the last couple of years, and it is showing. For whatever how bad his time was at Man United, Ten Hag had a perfect 2 seasons in terms of silverware. He returned 2 trophies over 2 years.
Very true.
That's something that neither of our clubs can say at this current moment in time. And who's to say that he wouldn't have scammed his way to a Europa League Conference League? I genuinely thought they could. I genuinely thinking if they did that, I would not be surprised. But hell, they still could.
True.
But they're investing into a team and even investing into a culture that's very, very different to the one that they believe that they were getting. They weren't getting off the worst of Fergie. Hell, this is so far off from the worst of Fergie. At least the worst of Fergie would have had them very firmly in that top echelon.
That's very true.
Even if they finished 6 points behind the top team, they would have been very much challenging on every front. Whereas here, it's getting worse every single appointment. It's almost making Ollie's time look like a complete success because at least they're in the top half of the table.
Which is a crazy thing to say on reflection.
At the time there, we were kicking him. We were proper kicking him down because, like, you know, you're hiring this guy, Ollie's at the wheel. He doesn't seem to know. He's got that look on his face, that vacant look on his face. It's like, you are in trouble at this club. And he had them in the top half of the table pretty much all the time. Whereas now, and even Ten Hag, same sort of problem. Whereas now, they're so far off from where they are. And the playing standard, I mean, I haven't even got to the standard of play, but there's a culture at the club that's just, they haven't exactly met in the middle. A lot of the fans are sort of pining for the glory and seeing themselves as this big time player sort of thing. Where, you know, here's the thing is Manchester United, you're not going to ignore it, but where the owners are not recognising that, like, I don't really see what you're seeing. Your stadium's crumbling, the facilities aren't good enough. A lot of the players are like, you know, they want to be like the next Ronaldo, but you're not Ronaldo.
Not at all.
Not even going to mention certain players because you know who that player actually is. Even your homegrown talent, some of your homegrown talent ain't producing. Big man like Rashford had all this time, and it looks like it hasn't worked after all these years. So they got to get it together because they could be the next Leeds. It can happen to any club, and the way that the football is now in the Premier League, where the gap is that much closer for success and failure. The fact that a team like Bournemouth are in the top 5 or something like that, Forest are 3rd. Like, they can't afford to be complacent, man.
Where do you think it's gone wrong for them? Because I look at the Manchester derby. To turn that game around at the Etihad, brilliant to win 2-1. Yeah. You look at the Liverpool game, to get that to 2-2, that was a good performance. And just unfortunately, they couldn't kind of hold on to make it over the edge. But they've been so inconsistent. I mean, they have lost 3-2 at home to Nottingham Forest. They've lost 3-0 at home to Bournemouth, which is unheard of for them.
Yeah.
Beat 2-0 away to Wolves. Lost 2-0 at home to Newcastle. It's not too much of a surprising result of recent seasons, but still a big shock for them. Beat Southampton 3-1, then losing 3-1 at home to Brighton.
And lost 2-0 to Palace.
And then lost 2-0 to Palace at home. Now, Crystal Palace are one of those teams that I love because they're just so streaky and just unpredictable and they do really random stuff. But at the same time, it's like, but you're still Man United.
Exactly, yeah.
These kind of results are just not really what I'd expect to see from a team that, for all due respect to them, they should be challenging at the top table. They should not be sitting in 13th right now.
That's mad.
They're 13th.
That's actually mad.
On 29 points.
I think they're only like, what, 12 or 15? But they're 12 or 15 away from relegation, though.
Yeah.
The gap is big enough, but the fact that they're looking close to the bottom, but they are to the top, is the main worry. And it seems to me that they only seem to be featuring for the games that actually mean good on the paper. So a 2-2 against a flying Liverpool looks good. A 2-1 away to your main rivals against Man City looks good. Beating you in the FA Cup early on in the season looks good. So that's all well and good, but it's still, it papers. It's like putting a sticky note on a nuke, a leaky nuke. You're not getting rid of the problem. And now the world out there, they really, really know it. So you're not like this big time serious club no more. You need to sort like, and again, that's the thing, like, I can't even laugh at it. I feel sorry for Ruben because he came off of the back of Sporting, I mean, after whooping City 4-1.
And he could have stayed the season because they were on a good run.
They were on a good one. He could have stayed, and who knows if Ten Hag could not have got something else out of him. I don't know. But whatever, it seems to be like maybe it's not the managers, maybe it's not them because of what they've had. Moyes didn't work. Then they had Van Gaal, which ended in the way it did.
Won the FA Cup.
Won the FA Cup though. Mourinho won the Europa thing. He won trophies there. Second season he didn't win anything, but they were second behind Pep's Man City.
Yep.
Then Ollie came in for a little bit. Then they had Ralph Ragnick.
Yeah, that was a waste of a season.
That was an absolute waste. He won every game basically 1-0. Then he had the 10 boiled egg. All right, league didn't do very well, but he won trophies. He won silverware back to back. Can't see further and fairer than that. And now you got Amorim. So it's showing you maybe it's not the manager. Maybe it's not. Maybe some of these players, a lot of these players aren't fighting because I think you got the old, the young, and like the rookies and things like that. You got some of your older players who I genuinely don't think they care no more. They just don't. They don't.
I also think some of them physically are past it now. Like Ericsson, Casemiro. I call him Casemiro, but Casemiro.
Yeah.
I don't think the legs are there for the league anymore for both of them.
They're
Great players in their day, but
I
think it's probably a bit too far gone for them now.
And again, they're in there. They're chilling in Manchester for something. I don't know why. Maybe got some nice restaurants up there or something. Then you got Bruno Fernandes, who again will chip in, but he doesn't. I don't look at him and being like, that's a prideful captain right there. I don't look at him like that is prideful right there. Like your Roy Keanes, like someone like that. You're looking at a state of fear. Don't look at him like that. I feel sorry for someone like a Hodgland who's still yet to really burst onto the scene. Like who's good when he's on his day can be really, really good. You've got the young boy Ahmad who's really trying. You got Kobe Mainu who's really trying. But they're probably two of the few who actually do something. They're probably two of the few. But they're kids. It's one thing to have pride in your academy and then you have them do really, really well. But they're still kids at the end of the day, and you're relying on them that much. Like it's not fair on them. Other players around your senior man should be stepping up big time. The likes of Rashford, the likes of Maguire. No, I'm not talking about Garnacho, but you get the point. Onana is a fraction of the player from when he left the Inter 2 years ago. Mainly considered to be one of the best keepers in the world. And it was all right for the season, but again, something's just happened to him, and he's just between him and Sanchez. I don't know who frustrates me more. No, probably Sanchez.
I think Onana because he's a better goalkeeper than what he's playing at. Sanchez, I feel like.
Well, thank God he's been dropped for tonight. Yeah. But I just like, and yeah, big one with Rashford. He's done what he should have done from 2 years ago. If you're not leading this line, which is what you were there to do, just leave. Go off somewhere else and find the glory somewhere else. But they have big problems in this club. And the owners need to realise that just simply pulling in a bunch of men that look good in a shirt, you don't have that Fergie factor no more. It's like if it was Fergie, I'll get it. But that aura's gone now, man.
Before we talk about Rashford more, because I do want to kind of talk about this move and a lot of the conversation around him, because I feel like I'm not really happy with what I'm hearing. But how do you think they solve it now? And do you think, because I look at them and I think, with Arteta, we went through a transitional period at Arsenal where we had to work out who was on his side and who wasn't. Gave Özil a fresh start, and obviously that didn't really end well. Gave Aubameyang opportunities, didn't really end well, and I think both of them could have done better. How the situation ended. We've seen the likes of players like Luiz come and go. We've seen the likes of many players get phased out over time, and he's got the players in that he wants. Obviously, the squad now, he's obviously upgraded the keeper in recent years from Ramsdale to Raya, which a lot of fans were against at the time, but you can see the benefit of it. The fact that now, you look at our back four, and you've got options galore. Like right back, when he's back, you got White and you got Timber. Two great options to right back. Left back, we started the season with Zinchenko and I guess it's Calafiori as our main options. Zinchenko's kind of slowly being phased out. And then we had Tierney come back from his injury and looking okay, serviceable. Miles Lewis-Kelly's come out of nowhere and snatched that spot, and he's made Zinchenko now be surplus to requirements.
Yeah, obsolete.
And obviously when he's back fit, Tomiyasu, which is a big loss, but he's a great option. Then centre-backs, you've got Gabriel and Saliba, where it's set. It's the backup to them where you could be a bit because Kivior's a bit hit and miss, but you can see what we're building throughout the squad. I look at Man United and I think you've got some promising young pieces, but their squad just feels so jumbled. Maguire's seen as their key linchpin in centre-back, which is shocking considering how his career has gone at Man United over the years.
Yeah.
You got Lenny Yoro, who's young, still got mistakes in him, but he's learning. Martinez, who's one of their better players, but he's now out. I think probably out for the season. He's injured. But again, even with him, Burns hot and cold. You got Victor Lindelof.
Poor guy.
Anyway, and then you look at the wide areas in defence, and you got Mazwari, who looks okay. You got De Ligt, who doesn't really seem to. I don't know if De Ligt's now left, but if he hasn't,
I'd leave if I was him.
Struggles to convince me that he's a good centre back in this league. Dalot, who's very good. I like what he does at Man United. He's solid. And on the other side, you got Malachi, who looks like he's on his way out. You got Luke Shaw, who, bless him, can't buy a match to save his life. And then in midfield, it's just a jumbled mess. You got Mainu,
All over the place.
quality player. You got Ugarte, who's okay-ish. I think Jury's still out, but I think he can perform really well, but hot and cold. You got Mason Mount, massive question mark because he can't stay fit. Bruno Fernandes, who is a quality player, but it's just that sometimes I just don't know what Bruno we're going to get. And that's the problem. But when he's on it, he's one of the best in the league. When he's on it. One of the best in the league, but it's just Burns hot and cold. And you go ahead of them, and then you've got, obviously, the rest of the midfield, you've got Casemiro, Eriksen, like I said before, I think past it. Then you look at their attack, and it's just like, where do we build?
That's where the problem is.
You got Hodgland, who's not got the best first touch and looks a bit he's just off the pace. You've got Zirks, who's struggling for confidence and looks, again, like a really bad buy. In the current, they're using him. They might figure something out for next season. You've got Ahmad, who's the best attacking player by far. And you've got Garnacho, who should be up there with him, but seems to just kind of be a bit distracted to what he wants to be as a player.
Exactly.
And then you just think, okay, where's the goals going to come from? What do we have to build on with that as our collection of misfits? And you've got a manager now who has to figure out how I'm going to get this team playing how I want to play. And will they swallow their pride as players and say, okay, look, the coach is going to play how he wants to play. Let's adapt to it. Because sometimes with players, you might sit there and think, you know what, eventually he will cave into what we want to do. And we'll play the football we want to play, and then we'll get him out the door. And we've seen that at clubs. You've had it with your players, with Andre Villas-Boas, and famously with Lampard and Terry telling him, or Terry mainly telling him, basically to do one in as a matter of words.
Pretty much.
And taking over how the team plays, and that cost him his job. We've seen it at other clubs where managers come in, they just aren't able to wrestle the dressing room dynamic and get them playing how they want. And it's not easy. Potter, for example, failed at it. But how do you think Amorim can now kind of put his foot down and say, this is how we're going to play, this is what we need to do, and then get points on the board again and get Man United up to and try and get them back into Europe for next season?
It's going to be hard because from those group of players and misfits, there aren't very many positives that he has. So who's he going to get loyalty from? It's a difficult one because you've got the players there who are going to be really frustrated and it's going to be divided. It's going to be in groups. You've got the ones who are just there, they're almost forgettable, possibly on their way out. He's not going to get it from the likes of them. Then you've got the ones who are like just kind of fading out, like you said, your Casemiros and your Eriksens and maybe a few others. They're like looking at, this, my career's almost done, or I'm going to go to another club. Probably not going to get it from them. Then you're going to get the ones that have a bit of promise. But a bit of promise and maybe somehow, some way they could be molded into what he wants, but they might lack the confidence to actually go out there and play. They're playing with much vigor and confidence. May not get it from there because they might not be sure of themselves. And then you've got the players who are in form, not necessarily loyal to him, but they're in form right now. Your best ones like your Dallots, your Mainus, and your who's the other one? Dallots, Mainu, and Ahmad. Those three right there who are probably going to get. So most likely, those three could be a focus somewhere because they're the ones that are actually trying to fight. Big one's going to be the captain, though, is with Bruno. That's the one where you're looking at, because like as we've seen before, they'll look to the skipper to be like, got a gaffer, like, boss, the gaffer ain't doing it right. What do we do? So it's all very important in which line of thing he's in. Because like we said, on his day, he can be amazing, he can be brilliant, but where does his loyalties lie? Because what you don't want to be as embarrassing things as come away a bit part through the season to then be sacked, let's say, a few games later, because it's not impossible, and it has happened in the past, that I think that particular team got relegated. When they were getting relegated anyway, definitely did. So it's a case of what players he sees as being his, like, rallies for the group, to boost the mood in the group, because it's now February. We're 3 months away from the end of the season, excluding all other competitions. he's got to find a bit like how I was with Arteta, whereas like I have my loyalists in my club and who I see as part of that vision. He's now got to make that difficult decision where he looks at players that maybe even like these bumper contracts, who doesn't need to be here at the end, and we're going to completely rebuild from the start. Even if even necessarily don't get in European football, because sometimes the European football can be a massive distraction. It really, really can. If because there's no point of trying to qualify for Europe. You're just going to be there. You want to compete.
That's true.
Man United can compete. It's just that in this guys, in the way they're playing, is just how disjointed they are. It quite simply can't be done. And the amount of players they have that aren't doing it, it may be too much of a thing. Because there's nothing to say like the likes of Eriksen, Casemiro, Luke Shaw, Maguire, Garnacho will leave at the end of the season. It's a very possible. I mean, in the case of Mason Mount, where does he go? He's on a bumper contract. Obviously, we're going to keep him on, paying him on the books. What's going to happen? But he needs to, I don't know. He's got players who will, even if they're not necessarily loyal to what he wants, they're playing for the club. They're trying to do something. He just needs to figure out. He won't figure out in this window because the window's nearly done. But let's say where they are in come May time, look to like exactly what he wants, because a lot of we're starting a proper fresh here. The last managers didn't necessarily get to do that. They were still kind of living off the Fergie essence, the Fergie aura, and he left the club 12 years ago, and they were still really slowly chipping away at what he did. He was there for 20 odd years. You're not going to do that overnight. And if they truly want to establish, it's not necessarily of, pasting over what he did. They've got to start. You see what Jaguar did in the social media? They've got to do a Jaguar.
Well, that was radical.
It was radical, and it's a risk. It's bold, and they haven't made a single car yet, but it got the people talking, and to where they want to go in the future. We're going to start a complete. I personally don't get why they did it, but at the same time, these risks have to be taken. They're starting a whole fresh. We're starting from here now and then. This needs a Jaguar. This has got to be, because you're still living off the Fergie thing, and you've been nowhere near a Premier League title in 12 years. You got to do that, mate, because the last kind of remnants of Ferginess left and went to Napoli. Scott McTominay. He was like one of the last few.
That's a fair point.
He was a Fergie type player, a dog, just holding on to that ball for dear life. Majority of the players in that team ain't like that. So you got to jag him in the whole thing, and start with what you want. And the owners, they've got to be behind that. If you're hell bent on this guy, bringing him in because you like what you saw at Sporting Lisbon, stand by him. Stand by him. Wherever you end up, even if you end up finishing 15th, start clean brush over, start again. Then you'll find out which players are down for you.
That's going to be the big thing, is can they make that move? And then speaking of players, obviously Marcus Rashford has moved on, gone to Aston Villa on loan, like I said. And I do look at it and think I think it's a good move overall. It's a great place to re-establish yourself. Obviously there's a spot there because Duran's gone, so there's chance for him to play through the middle alongside Watkins, or even from the left as well, as a rotation option. But I just think, especially with the manager, when he was saying stuff like he's not training very well, one of my coaches is in his 60s, trains better than him. That kind of stuff just worries me, because at the one hand, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, is he that bad in training, and has it been covered up for all these years? Which is a possibility, and it'll be a shame if that is the case. Is it a bit of a smear campaign by the manager to just get him out the door? Because it just feels like you cannot fancy a player and you cannot be given what you want. But I just think, I was like, I don't like that way of describing one of your players who's come through Man United's academy. I never thought he would ever leave Man United like this.
No.
It feels like a crying shame. And yet, here we are. A good platform to build. You're going to have Champions League football for the rest of the season as well, so we'll see what he does in that competition. But how much do you think Emery's going to help bring out the best in Rashford, and will we see that Rashford finally emerge?
It's a bold move in the way, like in the last few years, in particular what happened. Part of me thinks, I don't think he's truly recovered from that England thing back in 2021. I don't think I don't think he's truly woken up from that. He had that one good season. But that's one good season in what, 4 or 5 in that time. I still don't think he's truly moved on from that. Saka's moved on from it. Yeah. Sancho's trying to move on from it. You know, every time he comes on from the bench for Chelsea, he's doing something. With him, he's doing a whole bunch of nothing. Like, he's going off watching games in LA, dressing in the garms. You know, a lot of the old Man United faithful. You know how I feel about some of the players who like the
annoying ones. I think of
the ones who have no season on their chicken. Them type. They're gonna come out and speak about it. But you know, there may be some kind of method to what they're saying. You know, there may be, but I don't want that to be for him because we all know what he can do. So I think, and he's and with something like that, an event like that, it takes. You got to be the one to decide that you're going to step away from that. He might say that he stepped away from it, but when I'm looking at him, the way that he plays and just his general attitude to the game, I don't think. I think there's a part of him that's still having that weight put on his shoulders. And I think he stepped away and did this little charitable thing for the food for kids sort of thing. That may have been a nice little thing, you know, something to kind of like. He did that. It's a good thing that he did, but a lot of people are like, why are you doing this thing on the pitch? You doing that for the kids? Fine, but we're doing the pitch. I don't know. But maybe leaving Man United or going away from that area. Just sometimes you just got to leave somewhere. And if you love somewhere, but it's killing you, you got to leave. And maybe being there was, and we've said this for ages, it's too much for him. And, you know, it would have been nice for a player like that to eventually stay on at the club and retire from the club and things like that. But sometimes, even after all that, we don't necessarily owe him anything. So maybe him just leaving Manchester, period, might but just be the thing that he needs. And he's going to be at a club that, at the moment at least, are going somewhere. They're on the right side of the Champions League. They're on the right side of the Premier League table. All right, granted, they got beat in a derby game on Saturday, but they can recover from that. They're in a better place for what your current club are at.
Yep,
you know,
100%.
Much better. And we've seen over the, you know, not that long ago when Jesse Lingard left Man United and had a little cameo at West Ham, had a whale of a time. How he didn't stay there, I don't know. And look at Danny Welbeck. He went from to Arsenal, then he went to Watford, and he's still featuring up the higher stuff like Brighton right now. Maybe, and there were 3 players they were academy players. They were academy players, just like him. It may be, and even players before that, a lot of players leave on to have. They might not necessarily get the glory, but their careers recover.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what maybe that's possibly what it is. He's still young enough to have a good career, but he's old enough and experienced enough to bring that to a club that's back on the rise, like Aston Villa, to maybe see him bring some back of glory. His first game will be really telling. His first game, just to see where he's at, because he's taken on from Duran.
And also, he hasn't played in a little while.
He hasn't played in a while. He's not going to start straight away ahead of Watkins. That wouldn't be fair. But we're going to see. He might make a 25-minute cameo the next game or something like that. Or maybe, but it's still in the FA Cup. They're still in the FA Cup. He might start the next one of the FA Cup. We shall see. Only time, I can't hold judgment until I see him in his first game. Then I'll know.
Yeah, I hope he can have a good end to the season and really kind of make a pushback. Because obviously the England squad place is gone for now. That's one thing for him to play for. Again, and even if Villa is not where he wants to be longer term, there's a chance to put himself in the shop window again.
Yep.
So other clubs maybe that were hesitant to go for him, there's a player there. Maybe Amarin might look and think, actually, I quite like what I see here. Let me give him a chance in pre-season and see what he brings back to Man United. Maybe not. But I think it's an opportunity for him to really sort of show the world what they may have forgotten about. The guy that's in there, that player that when he had his, you know, remember the game when he got his 2 goals against Arsenal to kind of kickstart the career. I remember that match all those years ago, and that player, that season and the season after that has not left me, because I saw a player that looked like, oh, he's coming for Rooney now, Rooney's record. He's coming. Like, this is a hungry Manchester player who plays with the heart of a Man United man, who gets it, who understands
doing
it,
Fergie proud, man.
and is doing damage in the biggest of games. So I think that guy can come back, and I hope that he can, because he will be important for England as well, long term. People might have moved on from him, but we saw in the last tournament England were in, we missed that explosive player. Who, as much as he was inconsistent, I think he should have gone to the tournament. I think he should have played, because in that final he could have made a difference for us.
And next we got a new manager for England.
Yeah. So maybe Thomas Tuchel can find a way to.
And he did. I think he did say he was considering Championship players. He did. He's something along the lines.
Look, Villa are not in the Championship. Man United not relegated, and he's good. So,
We'll see.
but yeah. Well, speaking of that hot take, what is your hot take for the season?
I'm gonna say that a Premier League team is gonna win the Champions League, but I'm not saying which one.
Okay.
Because
lots of options.
I'll give you a clue. It's got a vowel in the name.
That's all of us.
That's what I'm saying. You're all operating on different. Cause there's 4 teams.
Yeah.
4 teams. Yeah. One of them is fighting on each front and doing well on it. They're making it look easy. Another club would heal some old wounds. You can decide what that club's going to be. We'll heal the wound. One club is doing it to save the shambles of the season.
True.
The other one to show them that a sleeping giant is back. 4 good reasons for each one to push on, a real push on. But I'm not saying which one. But I think an English team's going to win the Champions League.
Very interesting.
In fact, I'd go as far and say I think we're going to have English teams winning all the European competitions. Conference, Europa, Champions League.
You heard it here, folks. So we'll see how that goes. And lastly, as our final thing for today, let's talk about the Premier League table as a whole. Currently, the top 4 are Liverpool, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, and Chelsea. The bottom 3 are Southampton, Ipswich, and Leicester. That's in reverse order. Southampton bottom on 9 points, Ipswich on 16, Leicester on 17. Above them, they've got Wolves on 19, Everton on 26, and Tottenham on 27. The top 6 has Man City in 5th on 41 points, and Newcastle just below them in 6th, and also on 41, with goal difference separating those teams. I don't know, I think it's head-to-head separating those teams because they both have the same goal games, draws, wins, losses, and goal difference so far. That's Man City and Newcastle. With that all being said, how do you see the table looking in the end of May when the season's all said and done?
Where do you want me to start?
Let's start at the very bottom and work our way up to the fun bit. So, 3 teams that are going to go down.
Southampton's already down.
Yep.
Trash. May even do worse than Derby. It's insignificant. Sorry, Southampton, just insignificant. This team let me down. I think Ipswich can go down. They've let me down. I thought there would be a lot more promise.
They're only 2 points from safety. I know, it's a bit of a tough one. But...
no, actually, no. Let me switch. I think Leicester will be 19th. Ipswich will be 18th.
So Ipswich is 3 points from safety, my bad. And Leicester are 2 points from safety.
Ipswich are going to be 18th. So Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich.
Okay.
Wolves.
Okay.
Just above them.
Then you've got Everton, Tottenham, West Ham, Man United.
I can see West Ham going above Wolves.
Okay.
Then Spurs. Then Palace. What place am I at? 12?
So you're at 13th, looking at 12. So, 13th, looking at 12.
After that will be Everton.
Yep.
I think David Moyes is going to really give them a kick up the arse, and so far he has. Then, so I'm 11?
11th now.
Brighton. I think Brighton, they're good, but they're struggling. I think Bournemouth are going to drop.
Okay.
They're doing really well. And even if they are to finish in the top 10, they've still done really, really well. But I think you see them dropping down a little bit.
I'll say them to 10th.
I think Man United are going to get a cheeky 9th.
Okay.
Man United are going to cheeky 9th. If any team's going to do it, it's going to be them. 8th is going to be Fulham.
Okay.
Another good season for them.
So you're still missing Brentford, Newcastle, and then the top 5.
I always forget bloody Brentford. I don't know why, I just forget Brentford. All right, I'll make a change. Brentford are going to be 9th.
Yeah.
Man United creep up again a little bit, swap them around.
Okay.
So I've got 7 left.
Yeah, so that was 9th and 8th. Yeah, so you got 7, the top 7, yeah.
Newcastle are going to be 7. They're going to improve on from last year. I don't want it to happen. No. No, I'm gonna keep him there. I'm gonna keep City there.
In fifth.
I'm gonna keep City there.
Who goes into sixth?
No, City is 6.
Yeah.
Villa are 5th.
Okay. And then top 4.
Forest, Chelsea,
Yeah.
Arsenal, Liverpool.
Okay.
That's mine.
Because that game in hand, Liverpool is so important against Everton.
And it's good,
think
yeah.
that's coming up on the 12th of Feb. So that's going to be a massive one. I think they're going to drop points to teams that's going to surprise people. Because everyone thinks it's the big games they've got coming up. So they got Wolves at home. They've got Man City away. They got Newcastle at home, and they got Villa away. Tough games. But it genuinely could just be those little tricky teams that you don't expect them to lose or drop points to. I don't think it's going to be the teams we expect. I think Man City might give them a game if they decide to turn up. You never know with Man City because they just do what they want.
I mean, Bournemouth on the weekend were quite unlucky. And even when they played Southampton, they weren't amazing. And Southampton, for all what it said, they could have got something from it. They really, really could have.
I feel like one of West Ham, Fulham, or Leicester are going to surprise Liverpool this season.
Could be. Hell, even Forest needed something against them.
Because I just think that they're so strong, but it'll be one of those games where they just have a little wobble. Yeah. And they just need to have 3 wobbles, and then Arsenal need to not wobble anymore. And then
No more.
So I think it's going to be very close come the end of the season, how it all goes. I think right now it's Liverpool's title to lose. I think Arsenal are doing what they need to do by staying in contention, but I do think there's work for us to do. And I stand by this. The ownership need to pull their finger out and spend some money, because I don't think we can go the rest of the season without adding one player. I think it'll be gross negligence. I don't care about the excuses of we want to buy the best players, we will have our targets, all that kind of stuff. We've always had targets every year, but if you don't sign them, what's the point of having your targets? I remember there was a massive article when I think the season we finished Xhaka's last season at Arsenal.
Second.
Yeah. And then after January window closed, there was a massive article that we were looking at Pedro Neto. I was like, oh, okay, surely we'll go get him in the summer. Summer came, no Pedro Neto came to Arsenal. I said, okay. And last season, we get knocked out of Champions League against Bayern Munich. Massive article. The board know that Arsenal need a game-breaking player to change things around. Cool. Summer comes, we don't sign that game-breaking player. Now, you could argue Sterling, based on his career, is that player.
Yeah.
Now, he was a panic signing, let's just be honest. A market opportunity that we took advantage of. We got him in. So far, he has not done that for us. He's slowly finding his feet, but he's running out of time. He's not running out of time because we still have, like I said, 3 months left in the season. But I need the Sterling to kind of arrive now. I need him to arrive now, because if we need everyone in our squad to start firing all cylinders to get us over the line. But we haven't done the business that we're going to do. And I look at it and think, okay, come the summer now, if we don't make a signing this window, who is that player going to be? They can want Ishak all they want. Newcastle don't have to sell him while it's on the contract. They can like Sesko all he wants, but if he doesn't feel he's going to be first choice, he won't come here. They can like Nico Williams, but the guys want to leave Spain.
Yeah.
So then where do you go from here? And it can't be that as a club we only have our number one target all the time. We missed out on Mudryk, who was our first choice target. We pivoted to Trossard. We missed out on Caicedo. We pivoted to Jorginho at the time. I don't see that pivot happening right now. And I think there should be someone we look at and think, I feel like the Ollie Watkins situation was a bit of a pivot. It's like, well, maybe there could be something that let's make a go and see how it gets on. Mm-hmm. Hasn't worked out so far. That might change before the window closes, but it's probably unlikely. Where's the other option? I was talking about Cunha, that's all died down again. Matthias Tell might be going to Tottenham now on loan.
Yeah.
Where's the other option? Because you can't tell me a club as big as Arsenal, with all the scouts we have, the data analytics company that we own, we don't have someone. Like, they can't put in because I know you can do it on Football Manager. Players similar to Ishak, enter and see who comes up. Players similar to X and players, like, they can't tell me there's not anyone they can find. There has to be someone, and he might not be your primary target, but get in someone that is not going to be a mistake. Get someone in that can get you at least around 10 goals for the rest of the season. Get in someone that could do something to give us a different option, because if Havertz goes on another Barron run, we are royally screwed.
Wolves did it in 2020. Wolves did it to get promoted to the Championship. And remember that team they had? Remember that team they first had when they first got promoted? And that was literally going off they didn't get necessarily who they wanted, but they got players who were close to that profile. And when over the years, their players have been pinched left, right, and centre.
And also, as a club, Arsenal have bought Arshavin in January, going back. We've bought Reyes in January. He literally got pushed to the edge to win the title. We have signed Aubameyang in January, who got us that FA Cup.
True.
And also did a lot of great stuff in the seasons that he was here prior to Wenger's departure. We can make January signings. We are not a club that doesn't know how to do it.
You can do it.
They need to do it. I don't want to hear the excuses that we tried, we put in bids, it's difficult. It's difficult for everybody, but players are moving around right now. So Arsenal need to get themselves in the driving seat, in the conversation.
Take control.
And make a move that makes sense.
Do you think it's a case that they just want their ducks to fall? What it is, that in their minds is like, we want all these ducks to fall in a row, because that's what they'll be at Bamian.
I think it is that, but then I think there also comes a point when you just have to just make the market move for you.
Yeah.
The Watkins bid is not a bad bid. I know people are saying the timing of it is really weird, but the bid actually came in on the Tuesday, prior to the Duran to Saudi links. So in a sense, it was a smart idea to say, look, okay, we know they've got some profit sustainability issues. Let's make a bid for a player that is 29. It's his last big contract, really. He's an Arsenal fan. He'd probably want to move. Let's try and get him. Let's see how that gets on. It makes sense.
Test the waters.
Test the waters, see how it goes. But to not get it over the line, to me, that will be gross negligence. And I think Arsenal need to get it done.
Sure.
And that's it. And there's no excuses for me anymore. Just get a deal done. Get a player in that could give the players a lift and something different going into a Dubai trip.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And going into the second leg of the Carabao. Let's just do something.
When is Dubai trip?
It should be this coming weekend because there's no FA Cup for us.
There you go.
We have a week off. So we'll
So
take that. Warm weather training for the win. But that's what we've got to do. We've got to try something different because we can't keep doing the same things. But we'll be back with another episode next week to talk about what's happening, how the transfer window ended for all our clubs, what players are on the move, who stayed, who went, who did Tottenham sign, and how will they fare for them. We'll see you all next time.
Peace.